Something strange might be happening in your mind, and most people don't even realize it. You're not depressed. You're not panicking. You're not overwhelmed. In fact, you seem calm. You get things done. You go to work. You talk to people. From the outside, your life looks completely normal. But inside, something feels missing. Not sadness, not anxiety, just a strange emotional numbness, like your mind pressed a quiet pause button on your feelings. Psychologists call this state functional freeze. And once you understand what it is, you might realize something unsettling. Your calmness might not actually be peace. It might be your brain's emergency survival mode. And if that's true, the real question becomes, what exactly is your mind trying to protect you from? 1. The hidden survival mode. Most people think there are only two ways humans react to stress: fight or flight. You either confront the problem or run away from it. But neuroscience has discovered a third response: freeze. When the brain decides a situation feels overwhelming, it sometimes doesn't fight and it doesn't escape. Instead, it temporarily lowers emotional activity. Not completely, just enough to survive. This is why animals sometimes go completely still when threatened. But here's the twist. Humans have a more sophisticated version, a state where you can still function. You work, you socialize, you move through daily life, but emotionally, you're partially offline. This is what psychologists call functional freeze. 2. Why it feels like calm. Functional freeze is tricky because it doesn't feel like a problem. In fact, many people describe it as peace. You stop reacting as strongly to things. Arguments don't affect you the same way. Bad news feels distant. Even good news doesn't create much excitement. It's like your emotional volume knob has been turned down. And at first, this can feel like emotional maturity. You think, maybe I'm just more stable now. Maybe I'm less dramatic than other people. But slowly, something strange happens. Life starts feeling flat. Moments that used to bring joy feel neutral. Connections with people feel distant. Even achievements that should feel meaningful land with almost no emotional impact. And this is where most people start asking themselves a quiet question. Why do I feel so calm, but also so empty? 3. The brain's safety mechanism. Your brain isn't doing this to hurt you. It's doing it to protect you. Functional freeze often appears after long periods of stress, not necessarily dramatic trauma. Sometimes it comes from something quieter: chronic pressure, emotional burnout, long-term uncertainty, or constantly pushing yourself to keep going. Eventually, your nervous system makes a decision. If we keep feeling everything this intensely, we'll burn out. So it reduces emotional sensitivity. It's like putting your feelings into low power mode. The problem? Low power mode saves energy, but it also dims the entire system, not just the painful emotions, the good ones too. 4. The signs most people miss. Functional freeze rarely looks dramatic. In fact, from the outside, people often think you're doing great. But internally, a few subtle signs appear. You feel strangely disconnected from your own life. Days blur together. Motivation becomes mechanical. You do things because you should, not because you feel driven to. Social interactions feel slightly distant, even with people you care about. And one of the most common signs? You spend a lot more time mentally checking out, scrolling endlessly, watching videos for hours, distracting yourself with small dopamine hits. Not because you're lazy, but because your nervous system is trying to stay in a safe emotional zone. Not too high, not too low, just neutral. 5. The unexpected trap. Here's where functional freeze becomes dangerous. Because it's comfortable enough to stay in. You're not in crisis, so you assume everything is fine. Years can pass in this quiet emotional fog. You keep functioning, but something deeper is missing. Real excitement, real connection, real engagement with life. And the longer someone stays in the state, the more normal it begins to feel, until one day they look back and realize they weren't actually living. They were just operating. 6. The way out, the intriguing part. The solution isn't what most people think. You don't fix functional freeze by forcing motivation or by pushing yourself harder. In fact, doing that can make the nervous system shut down even more. Because functional freeze isn't a productivity problem, it's a safety response, which means the real shift happens when the brain slowly learns it's safe to feel again. And surprisingly, the first emotions that return are not always pleasant. Sometimes the numbness fades, and underneath it, there's anger, or grief, or exhaustion that's been waiting for years. Which is why many people unconsciously stay in freeze mode, because sometimes the brain believes that feeling less is safer than feeling everything at once. So if you've been feeling calm, but strangely empty, if life has felt muted even though nothing is obviously wrong, there's a chance your nervous system isn't relaxed at all. It might just be paused. The real question isn't whether functional freeze exists. The real question is this: if your emotions suddenly came back online tomorrow, what would you actually feel first? And would you be ready for it?